Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today on the Employee Retention Credit and PPP Loan Forgiveness. My name is Sasha Preston-Suni, and I work for Chug CPAs LLP in our Los Angeles office. In December 2020, the Consolidated Appropriations Act, or CAA, drastically expanded the Employee Retention Credit. I've got a great panel of experts today to help you understand whether your business is eligible for this amazing opportunity and how you can maximize your Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness amount. If you have any questions today during the webinar, please enter them into the Q&A chat box. We've got a great panel of tax experts to share their knowledge today, including Eunice.Go, partner and CPA in our Los Angeles office, Maunika.Patel, team lead and accountant in our Atlanta, Georgia office, and Khushbu.Shah, accountant in Atlanta. During our presentation today, we're going to cover an overview of the Employee Retention Credit, what it is and how it has changed with the CAA. We're also going to cover which businesses are eligible and how you can calculate and claim the credit. We'll also chat about how to maximize your PPP loan forgiveness and next steps you should take to maximize your savings. Let's get started. Eunice, could you give us an overview of what the Employee Retention Credit is?
Thank you, Sasha, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for those in the East Coast. What is Employee Retention Credit? On the original regulation, Employee Retention Credit was first introduced as part of the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Security Act, commonly called as CARES Act, in March of 2020 to help businesses owners affected by the COVID-19. CARES Acts provide a refundable payroll tax credit against quarterly employment taxes. Companies qualified for the credit if they were either fully or partially shut down due to the government orders, or if they had a significant decline in quarterly revenue. The credit from CARES Act is equal to 50% of payroll-related cost over a certain time period, up to a maximum of $5,000 per employee for 2020. CARES Act expired last December 31st of 2020.
Thanks for that, Eunice. As we've mentioned, the Consolidated Appropriations Act, CAA, greatly expanded the ERC. Eunice, could you tell us a little bit more about the new ERC rules?
So how did the ERC change? The Consolidated Appropriations Act, which is the CAA, made a major change to the Employee Retention Credit. CAA modifies, expands, and extends the Employee Retention Credit. The ERC now applies to qualified wages paid between March 12, 2020 and through July 1st, 2021. Previously, under the CARES Act, the credit only applies for wages paid until December 31, 2020. The first and maybe the biggest change is the fact that companies that receive PPP loans may also benefit from the ERC now. Prior to this legislation, companies were not permitted to benefit from both the PPP and the Employee Retention Credit. Maunika will discuss further regarding this point. Second, they expanded the allowable size of a company that will have wages that qualify for the credit. The recent changes increased the employee limit to up to 500 employees, which dramatically expands the number of companies that will benefit or qualify for this credit. Under CARES Act, companies with 100 employees or less could include all wages paid to employees during their eligible period, but companies over the size were more limited in identifying the wages that would qualify. Third, the legislation also extends the liberalized nearly every aspect of the credit for the first 6 months of 2021. The credit as a percentage of payroll and the definition of a significant revenue decline are both more generous now. Another big change is the maximum for wages that can be used for the credit was also increased. Also, group health plans expenses can be considered qualified wages even when no other wages are paid to the employee. Consistent with the IRS guidance, this can occur with furlough employees. The credit is available to certain government instrumentalities, including colleges, universities, organizations providing medical or hospital care, and certain organizations chartered by Congress. Many of these changes are only effective starting January 1, 2021, but one is effective retroactively to the original CARES Act, which is the PPP loan and the Employee Retention Credit.
Thank you, Eunice. So which companies are eligible for the ERC?
Who are eligible for the ERC from January 1, 2021, businesses that have partial or full suspension of operations or 20% reduction in revenues compared to the same quarter in 2019. Previously, this requirement was for a 50% reduction of revenues compared to the same quarter in 2019. Due to this change, many companies are eligible for the ERC. This is not retroactive though. Businesses that did not exist in 2019 may be eligible if they use comparison to 2020 to claim the credit. Employers with 500 or fewer employees can claim credit, even for employees who are working starting January 1, 2021. Again, this is not retroactive. Previously, companies could only take credit for employees who were still working if they had 100 or fewer employers. The type of wage eligible for the credit are reduced, but employers with more than 500 employees can still take advantage of the ERC if they have employees that are being paid but not yet working, or if they are working reduced hours. The partial or full suspension of operation requirement means that the company was fully or partially affected by the government shutdown order. This condition is clearly met if your business wasn't allowed to be open due to a state or local order, but you may still be partially affected even if you were an essential business. For example, some banks were considered essential businesses and stayed open, but they were limited to the number of people they could have in the lobby. For the purpose of this credit, you're not allowed to look at customers not showing up just because they choose to stay at home. But in many cases, there are orders that prevented at least some amount of businesses from occurring. Another one is business that has tax losses in 2020 can also qualify. Since this is a payroll tax credit, even companies with tax losses can still get some cash flow from the credit, and it's refundable. For the 2020 year, it is possible to amend prior payroll tax filings to generate those refunds.
Thank you, Eunice. So, Maunika, how exactly is the ERC credit amount calculated?
Thank you, Sasha. Good afternoon, everyone. So, as Eunice said, the employer retention credit is revised in late December 2020 and extended the ERC from December 31st, 2020 until June 30, 2021. The credit percentage is increased from 50% to 70% of qualified wages of 2021, plus the cost of health benefits. When determining the qualified health expenses, the IRS has multiple ways of calculating dependent on circumstances. Generally, they include the employer and employee pre-tax portion and not any after-tax amount. So qualified wages for the credit per employee are capped at 10,000. That means the max credit per employee is 7,000 per quarter and 14,000 per employee for 2021. The 2021 credit is available even if employer received the 5,000 maximum credit for wages paid to such employee in 2020.
Thank you, Maunika. What forms will businesses need to file in order to claim the credit?
So you can claim the credit by Form 941, Form 941X, and Form 7200. So calculate the amount of your credit for the preceding quarter and reduce your 941 deposit by that amount.
Thank you. Could you provide an example to help people understand how exactly the credit amount is calculated?
Sure, Shasha. An employer with, let me give an example, like any employer with one employee making 12,000 within a quarter would be permitted to use 70% of 10,000. So max quarterly employee limit of 7,000 against applicable taxes. So if there is no enough taxes to offset against, a refund would be calculated at the time of filing Form 941, or refund can be also requested earlier by filing Form 7200. I think this is I explain how to claim this credit.
Great, thank you. So Maunika, what about businesses who have already taken out a PPP loan? Are they eligible to claim the ERC?
The answer is yes. CAA 2021 amended the CARES Act to allow employees that received PPP loan to retroactively claim ERC. When covered period for PPP loan was extended to 24 weeks, many clients' applications for debt forgiveness qualified for 100% forgiveness on payroll alone, without considering the other eligible non-payroll costs. However, those other costs now may play a big role in receiving the ERC benefit. In assisting our clients with their forgiveness calculation, analyzing the ratio of payroll and non-payroll cost is a critical step. If sufficient non-payroll costs are available, limiting payroll costs to the 60% threshold required for full forgiveness may allow the remaining payroll to be eligible for ERC provided relief. The credit, however, may not be claimed for wages paid with the proceeds of a PPP loan that have been forgiven. So companies who have taken PPP loan should check whether they are qualified for ERC for tax year 2020. So wages outside the cover period of the PPP loan could be used for the ERC. However, it is unclear how to reporting of wages as a payroll cost on a previously filed PPP loan forgiveness application. Its effects on employers' ability to claim ERC of the wages that were included on a loan forgiveness application.
Thanks, Maunika. Khushbu, could you explain how businesses can claim the ERC and still get their PPP loans forgiven?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone doing great. So, you can't use the same wages for the both. The employer can claim the employee retention credit on any qualified wages that are not counted as a payroll cost in obtaining PPP loan forgiveness. Any wages that could count towards eligibility for the ERC or PPP loan forgiveness can be applied to either of these two programs, but not both. Maximize 40% non-payroll cost for PPP forgiveness. For a PPP loan to be forgiven, funds received must be spent on a predefined set of qualifying expense. At least 60% of the amount of a PPP loan that is forgiven must have been used for payroll expenses, which subject to certain limitations that apply to business owner, include not only salary and wages, but also vacation, family and medical leave, group health coverage, retirement benefit, and state and local taxes, and the remaining funds, not more than 40% on the rent, mortgage interest, utility, and business interest. Also, you might have more than enough wages for PPP forgiveness even when you using the same period. So you must carefully account for that and have documentation that the wages used for ERC are not the same wages used on your PPP loan forgiveness application.
Wonderful, thank you. So what are the next steps that businesses should take to claim the ERC and get their PPP loan forgiven?
The next step will be determine if you are eligible for ERC, as Eunice explained the eligibility for ERC. If you are not eligible for ERC, then go ahead and apply for PPP forgiveness. However, if there is a chance you will be eligible, then wait to apply for PPP forgiveness. Previously, it was not allowed, but as per new law, create a chance for some client to take advantage of both Payroll Check Protection Program loan and the employee retention credit. As Monica explained the calculation, first calculate the payroll expense needed to be used for PPP forgiveness, allocate the remaining payroll to be used for ERC. Please contact your payroll advisor or accountant for their help in determining the best way to getting the benefit for both programs.
Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation today. If you have any questions that do pop up for you, feel free to send us an email at info@chug.com, or feel free to email one of our presenters using the contact information on the screen. We want to thank you for joining us today. We have live webinars each week on the Paycheck Protection Program loans and other COVID-19 resources for small businesses. Please visit our website at chug.net, that's CHUGH, to register for an upcoming webinar. And we also recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel, Chug LLP, for great new business content every week. Thanks for attending our webinar today, and we wish you a safe and happy week ahead. Take care.